Hello everyone, first to meet you. I am Miss SALAMAH, a student of UIN Saifuddin Zuhri Purwokerto with an Islamic religion education study program. Okay, here I will explain a little material about Islamic moderation education. Okay, before going any further, let's first discuss what Islamic moderation is. Okay, for the first material is the basic concept of Islamic moderation education. Islamic moderation is one of those attitudes or views that always predominate in deciding the difference in society. Islam wasatiyah or moderates of Islam is always contextual in interpreting and applying to the divine verses, and distancing from the textual interpretation. In applying the law, Islam wasatiyah use istinbat method to apply the law according to the development of the times as long as it does not conflict with existing Islamic scenarios in the Holy Quran and the Hadith. The understanding of the wasatiyah or middle road is characteristic and viewed by the modernity of Islam in understanding all of life. Next, the Islamic moderation goals is avoid radicalism behavior and always seek a middle ground that does not see and equate all the elements in social, national, and Indonesian life with the understanding and moderate thinking of Islam is hope to create a balanced Islam. The athenical and liberality between us and difficulty between the world and the next and the ruh and the body and the so on until the realization of Islam rahmatan lil alamin. Next, normative foundation for Islam moderation education. The normative foundation is the basis of adhering to the terms as a measure of judgment. The source of normative Islamic education is verses from the Quran and Hadith about Islamic moderation. In Islam, the Quran and Hadith have been a source, allow, and reference to the intake problems from the time of Rasulullah to the present. Here are some passages in the Quran regarding Islamic moderation education, namely Surah Al-Baqarah verse 1043. which reads, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وكذلك جعلناكم أمة وسطا لتكونوا شهداء على الناس ويكون الرسول عليكم شهيدا وما جعلنا الكملة التي كنت عليها إلا لنعلم من يتبع الرسول ممن ينقلب على عقبيه وإن كانت لكبيرة إلا على الذين هدى الله وما كان الله ليضيع إيمانكم إن الله بالناس لرؤوف رحيم. Al-Ayah, Sadaqallahul Azim. And the meaning is, and thus we have made you a medium nation that you might be the bearers of witness on the people, and that the apostle might be a bearer of witness to you. And we did not make that which you would have to be a qiblah, but that we might distinguish him who follows the apostle from him who turns back upon his heels. And this was surely hard, except for those whom Allah has guided aright, and Allah was not going to make your faith and be fruitless. Most surely Allah is affectionate, merciful to the people. Okay, this is a verse about foundation for Islam moderation education. And next, there are also hadiths that explain Islamic moderation education. For the first hadith, there is hadith riwayat Bukhari from Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu anhu saying, "No one charity will ever save him." And they asked, "They too, O Rasulullah?" He replied, "So do I, unless God bestows him His mercy. Then set it right, but don't overdo charity and cause boredom. Be at work in the morning and at noon. Help it with the end of time malah. Walk in the middle, walk halfway, in order for you reach your destination." Next, hadis riwayat Baihaqi, Ahmad al and Al-Hakim. From Buraidah bin Aslami said, "One day I went out on a business trip and the Prophet walked in front of me. Then he pulls me up, and we walked together. It was then that we found a man who was praying, and he gave me a lot of money and stuff. The Prophet says, 'Do you see him as a Riyah?' And I say, 'God and his messenger know better.' He took my hands out of his, and he took them in his arms and strengthened them and raised them both, saying, 'Let thee follow the instruction by cheers.' And he repeated 3 times, for verily." And next, hadis riwayat Muslim, Jabir bin Su'aid radhiyallahu anhu said, "I have prayed with the Prophet many times, and I found his prayers in the middle and his sermons also in the middle." Next, the last, there are hadis riwayat Nasa'i and Ibnu Majah. From Ibnu Abbas said, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Who man avoid overacting, for the early people perish because of the attitude of the inner religions." Next, material is the views of classical and contemporary scholars in responding to Islamic moderation education. For Ibn Jabir at-Tabari, according to him, the Islamic Wasatiyah as Muslims, since they are in the middle of religions. They are not extreme and excessive as the extreme of Nasrani, whose legacy is this world and is human nature. It is also not the Jews who replaced the Book of God, killed the prophets, lied to Allah and the heathen, but Muslims are middle and balanced in religion. So this is why God calls them a moderate religion. Next, praised Abu Hamid al-Ghazali in the work of any kitab Al-Ihya Ulumuddin. He showed that he ideal life by generalizing the teaching of Islam in either halfway, balance, just or proportions between the world and the next, and between rohani and the physical, and between material and spiritual. Next, praised Al-Qurtubi, in his mind, the people who wasatiyah are just then and fire people, not fire, but fair. Al-Qurtubi explained that Al-Mike. Okay, and next material, there is the historical basis for Islamic moderation education. Okay, Islamic moderation education is a true event or event that provides a basis for the application of Islamic moderation. Next, implementation of the moderation on Shirah Nabawiyah. The Prophet's dialogue with the friends. The Prophet Muhammad once displayed a wasatiyah attitude when conversing with friends. The record of Aisyah tells of three friends who claimed to practice her religion well. Each of the three friends claimed to be fast and unopened, always die at night and never sleep, and not getting married out of fear of disturbing worship. The messenger of God that time affirmed that I'm the best of you. For the prophet fasted and opened, prayed at night and prayed and sleep at night, and he's married. Next, the story of Rasulullah and Badui. In the time of the prophet, there was a rabbi who came to a mosque and aren't in front of friends. At the time, friends were angry, but prevented the prophet from letting the man finish his business. Afterward, the rabbi was called and advised that this place is the house of God, but a sacred place from which to keep unclean. Among the friends and the lockout were asked to clean the unclean place with water until it was cleansed again. The attitude indicated by this prophet was an attitude of tolerance in religion that became part of the moderate application. Next, the occurrence of occurrence the occurrence of Islamic modernity in the era of Khulafa Rashidin. The first story is the story of Umar and Christians. The unique story of the Al-Huda Umayyah comparison agreement was agreed on. At the time of prayer, Umar asked the Patrians sovereigns where he could pray. The Patrians sovereigns allowed Umar for praying the clue, but Umar refused. He then left the crowd and prayed on the steps. Umar explained why he doesn't want to pray in the crunch. The Qiyamah crunch is sanctuary for Orthodox Christians in Jerusalem. If Umar pray in the cross, and Muslim armies can interpret that one day the Qiyamah crowns might be conjured and converted into a mosque. Hearing Umar's explanation, the patriarch of Shopirinus nodded in amazement. As a tribute, sorry, as a tribute, in the Umar bin Khattab place in front of the crowns then built the mosque. But Umar forbade prayer to go to the mosque, for the fear of disturbing the ritual of worship that was in the crowns. Next, the story of Umar and the Jewish beggars. One day, Umar bin Khattab was walking past a race. He later found an old beggar who seemed to have a breakdown on his eyesight. Umar approached the old man and asked, "Which faction, master of the book?" The old man answered, "Jail." "Why are you doing this begging?" asked the Umar. An old man replied, "I beg to be able to pay for miracles, provide for my life, and my age makes me unable to work." Umar bin Khattab then grabbed to the old man's hand. He led the old woman to Umar's house and put provisions from her home. Then Umar took the grandfather to the guardian of Baitul Mal with a message. "Take care of this person and just like him. By God, we are not being fair because we eat the labors of his youth and pay jizya, and then we ignore him when he reach old age." Okay, next material is uh, Administration of Islam Moderation by Classical and Contemporary Scholars. First, practicing moderation by classical ulama. After the Islamic government was transferred to Damascus, Islam was filled with a lot of colors. This is because much of the local wisdom was assimilated into Islamic tradition. Also, the city of Damascus is supported by its leaders, whose opponent is Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan. Thus, the lesson of tolerance grew among people during the Abbasiyah dynasty. There was a highly famous liberty called the Template. The liberality was raised by Sultan Harun al-Rashid in Baghdad. Sultan Harun advocated a principle of tolerance and meritocracy on identity. In fact, he made Mian Shu, an anti-Arab Persian, head of the liberally. There were not many Jews who worked as translators or of ancient Greek texts into Hebrew and Arabic at the template. This is an example of the implementation of Islamic modernity in the Caliph's time. Next, implementation of Wali Songo moderation. Islam is propagated in peaceful way, does not force others to convert to Islam, embrace current culture and even promote it into local culture without losing its identity. It was a tolerant attitude that attracted many Indonesians to conform to Islam. Meanwhile, Wali Songo is a skilled attracts of Islam creation in Indonesia. Okay, next material is the principle of moderation of Islam and its relevance to the Maqasid Sharia. Islam actually has very powerful modernity principle, including the justice, balance, and tolerance that are part of the Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaah. As for one of the characters, Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaah is always adaptable to situation and condition. Therefore, Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaah is not jumud, not is rigid, is not exclusive, and also is not elitist, let alone extreme. Instead, Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaah can develop and at the same time can break the already conducive explanation. As for the principle of Islamic moderation are as follows. And first is tasawwuf. Tasawwuf in others words middle or moderate. In fiction, a change from Islam can be seen from the result of clerical ijtihad, which always proposes an attitude of flexibility according to the context of the society in which the law is applied. Similarly, in the scans, it can be seen how in the use of Amar Ma'ruf Nahi Munkar always present a confidential, prudent, non-violence, and courteous to others. One is called martyr when they have fought hard to establish truth and have even sacrificed their soul and body to uphold it. Thus it might be said that those who are moderate do not have a soul, lost and unprincipled or stand, but rather are opposite of one who is steady. They stand up straight in the mind of society, saying that right is right and wrong is wrong, and always fight in order to justice and truth. Next is tawazun, generally balance. Tawazun or balance is all respects, including the use of dalil akli, dalil that is based on rational thought, and dalil nakli, source in the Quran and Hadith. God said in Surah Al-Hadid, verse 25, which means, verily we have sent forth our apostles with tangible evidence and have brought down with them the book and the balance sheet, that men may perform justice. And we create iron upon which there are great powers and benefit into man, and that God might know who is helping his religion and his messenger when God is not seen. In truth, God is mightier and mighty. Islam balances the role of divine revelation with human reason and leaves room for revelation system. In private life, Islam forms conclusion between the soul and the soul, between reason and heart, between right and duty, and so on. Balance as sunnah kauniyah means balance of the food chain of the solar system, rain and so forth, as his words in the Surah of Al-Infitar, verse 6 signs 7, which means man, whether that has defied you, act of inrighteousness, assigned your gracious Lord, who has created you, then perfect your display and made your body structure balance. Next, tasamu or tolerance. In Islam, tolerance is not justified when applied to a technological domain. Worship must be done with ritual and a common place of worship. Religion is unbelief. Worshipping in another religious way deters the essence of that belief. Tolerance can only be applied to the social world. Efforts to build tolerance through technological accepts, such as prayer and public worship, in an idea which has arisen since the Jahiliyah era and has since been rejected by the Quran through the letter of Al-Kafirun. Strictly, this letter of Al-Kafirun rejects syncretism and the sacred religion of Aqidah and Sharia. Next, understanding Maqasid Sharia, the Maqasid world and plural of Maqasid, meaning intent and purpose. Sharia, on the other hand, means the law of God set for man as a guide to the pursuit of happiness in the world and the afterlife. Maqasid Sharia is one of the important concepts in the subject of Islam. So important that the mujtahids who do ijtihad should understand. Maqasid Sharia is a simple definite as the objective of Sharia. Basically, the essence of Maqasid Sharia authority to realize both God and avoid evil. The relevance of the principles of moderation of Islam with the Maqasid Sharia, this lot of the is very strong and interconnect because Islamic moderation are always paying attention and are tied to Islamic purpose and lessons in general. Islam is no moderation, justice, balance, and consistency in Sharia without Maqasid Sharia. In construct, every law in Islam will contain moderation, justice and corruption for the people, if it based on Maqasid Sharia. 1. Maqasid Sharia and moderation in Sharia. Maqasid Sharia, which teach how to understanding Sharia text by searching of meaning, purpose, and the lesson. A law is established in the Quran and As-Sunnah to Mukallaf will establish moderation wasatiyah in Islamic teachings. It can be seen clearly in ijtihad and fatwa associated with worship issues. Second, Maqasid Sharia empowers moderation in ijtihad and fatwa. When each mujtahid or mufti is able to understanding Maqasid Sharia, then is legal and ijraq product or its fatality will bring about justice, mediocrity, and proportionality. Because the Maqasid Sharia is the ability to know and determine the purpose and secret of the Sharia maker in establishing laws of human. Maqasid Sharia will prevent a level-thinking Muslim from learning and broad his take into a dalil, as is the case today. Often a eye or ustads and can be controversial and troubling to the people by degrading and legalizing the illegal because of not knowing the Sharia intention. Intention. Sorry. Third, Maqasid Sharia empowers moderation in worship. When he able to better understanding the Maqasid Sharia, he will avoid overindulgence in religions because he understood that the meaning of worship was humble himself at Tazalul and bow himself to Almighty God, and the purpose of Godhead impede and complete worship upon his servants is that they will behold him. Next, fourth, Maqasid Sharia embodied moderation in the allowing all forms to be as long as no dalil attempts in or it or forbids it. From this comes the well-known fiqh code, the original law of the muamalah is primitive unless the three that there are absolutes. People who understanding Maqasid Sharia will view a case a problem with the law may then seek out and ensure the dalil shara on the matter, whether from the Quran, as-Sunnah, Ijma, and Qiyas. There is a rare case of ja I decoding the laws of a muamalah, which was apparently pres- prescribed by one of the Dalil Shara source, like Ijma or Qiyas. Okay, okay, I think enough for the material. Sorry, I have a many mistake in my presentation. So thank you